If you're thinking of buying a new racket, you have to watch this video because we're going to discuss 5 things that you need to know.
So we will look at the shape, the weight, the hardness of the racket, the surface, if that makes a difference, and then the price. Should you be spending a lot on your racket?
Before you start thinking about getting a racket, it's good to know that there are different shapes. There's a diamond shape, there's a hybrid or teardrop shape, and there is also a round shape.
And so if we look at the diamond shape, this is where you will see it's slightly wider at the top of the racket. It means that the balance is further up, so it is more head heavy. And also it's a racket that will probably give you more power. When it comes to the hybrid or teardrop, this is slightly less wide, it's slightly more rounded. You can see it's in between the diamond and the round shape, and this will have in between characteristics, so it'll be medium power, and then you will find the round shape is more balanced down towards the handle, and the racket generally gives you more control.
Unlike other racket sports like squash or tennis, there are so many different weight ranges to choose from, but in paddle there are really only 2 weight ranges. There's a light range, then the rackets weigh from between 340 to 360 grams, and a heavy range where the rackets weigh from 360 to around 375 grams.
Generally speaking, for ladies or for juniors or for those with a lighter frame physicality, you would go for the lighter rackets, and if you are bigger, more physical, then you could go for the heavier range of rackets. Generally speaking, the heavier racket will produce more power, but you need the strength to swing it.
When it comes to finding out how hard the racket is, it's really difficult for someone to pick a racket up and know from feeling it how hard the racket is. So the best thing for you to do is to actually look at the descriptions of each racket.
Generally, the racket materials are fiberglass, or they are a hybrid, which is a combination of fiberglass and carbon, like this hat comfort here, or they are carbon 3K, 12K, or 18K. So the more carbon that they would have in the racket, the stiffer they are.
So the next question then is, why does stiffness even matter?
So generally, the stiffer the racket is, the more performance you will get from it, control and power off that racket, but it needs to be in the right hands. You will only get that if you've got the swing speed and the accuracy of that swing and the contact point on the racket to make use of it. And this is exactly why we don't recommend the very stiff rackets for your recreational or new players.
And it's so important, isn't it, for players to actually get the right technique and the right advice from an early stage, because that's talking to exactly this with the rackets. If you don't have the right technique, then you can't use these stiff premium rackets well.
And that's exactly what we do on our platform. You can send in your videos and we will help improve your technique, as well as having, you know, lots and lots of product reviews on thepadelschool.com.
Now let's look at the surface of the racket, and here we're going to do a bit of a myth buster, aren't we, around the surface. Does it really matter to have a smooth or a rough surface on your racket?
Generally, there will be 3 different surfaces that you could have. There will be a 3D grain, where you might find the little shapes on the surface of the racket. You might have a smooth racket where there's nothing on the surface at all, or you might have grit where it feels a little bit like sandpaper. So
the question then is, should you base your purchase on the surface of the racket, and does it even make a difference to your play on the court?
So when it comes to the decision, it will make a marginal difference, and it's more of a personal preference or a feeling that you might have on the racket, but all of the characteristics that we've already covered are what you should be deciding this racket purchase on, not the surface of the racket.
Now for probably the most important question, and that is, how much money should you spend on a racket?
Well, as the rackets get more expensive, and the reason they get more expensive is the rigidity of the racket. So that is the technology that you see here in the throat, and it's also the surface of that racket. The more rigid, the more expensive, and as you go down in price, the less you will see these technologies in the racket. A lot comes down to your personal preference though. So, you know, if you are an advanced player at a high level, you might need more rigidity in the racket, and a beginner, lower level player, you might not, and therefore that would be at the cheaper end of that range.
In the ball paddle range, the rackets will range from around €80 all the way to €300, and really the reason that you should pay different amounts for that is the technologies like we talked about, the innovation, and also the quality of the carbon.
But really the best way to find the right racket for you is to test it. Have a practice and see if it suits you.
If you're looking to buy any of the ball paddle range, if you become a member of our online platform, thepadelschool.com, there are member benefits on there, and you can get a discount on ball paddle rackets, even discounted rackets on a number of sites.
Now, if you want to know how to test your racket, we'll put that video down on that side.